Hey, what's up everybody? Mark Price here at devslopes.com, and I think this might be our final and concluding video. In this video, we are going to build a simple user interface, and that will allow us to start the game. We're also going to work with a second camera, kind of like a main menu, and then you can start the game, and we'll manage a game state where you're not even in the game yet, and you'll learn how to work with user interface and call events from that user interface. And there's so much you can do with Unity user interface, and we're only barely scratching the surface here because we're just going to take things nice and slow so we can get all this stuff down. So let's work on the second camera. The idea is you get into the game and there's this cool little setup where it just looks different than the than just moving down the level. So let's do that now. What I want to do is I want to kind of get this little skull back here, like a closer up view of it. I think that would be really cool. So I'm just going to create an empty object here, and we're going to call this main menu. Okay? And let me minimize this here. I'm going to create a new camera. I'm going to click on this object, right click, and go to camera. And the very first thing I'm going to do with this camera is I'm going to remove the audio listener component, because you can only have one audio listener in your entire game. So that is now gone. Okay, and so we can pan around here, and there's definitely a second camera, as you can see. And we're just going to move it to a better spot, someplace that looks kind of cool, like this. I think that looks cool. And what I want to do is I want to grab this zombie here, our player, Command D to duplicate it. And let's go ahead and just drag that over here onto the main menu as well, in that object. And then we're just going to move him into the view of the camera. It's kind of just a little setup scene is all. Nothing special, nothing too over the top. Maybe make him a little bigger. Yeah, he's kind of cool. Just kind of sitting there. Nice. And so if you're wondering what happened to your other camera, okay, it's right over here. But the difference is, whenever you create a new camera, you have to start working with depth. Okay, the depth of the first camera is -1. The depth of this camera is 0. So if I change this to -3, okay, it now has a lower priority, and you can see this. So if you want to swap between cameras, you're really just changing the depth. We're going to set it back to 0 because we want this to be kind of our first main menu camera. And so we didn't have to create a new scene or anything. We just moved the camera, and now it looks like we've got this cool main menu here. And of course, if you change scenes, actually load a different scene than our main scene that we have here, the game scene, it'll take a long time to load, and that's not appropriate for us. Just a small game like this doesn't make sense. So here's our main menu. Cool. What I want to do is just show a logo and a play button here. And then when the play button's pressed, you know, we would hide this. And if the camera's hidden, it'll resort or default to the next camera in line. So if I turn this off, it's automatically going to switch to another camera. So we're setting this game object active or inactive. Okay? Cool stuff. And I mean, right off the bat, even if I play it, we should see our little zombie here idling. This is all still moving, but I don't care because I can't see it right now. It doesn't really matter to me too much. Of course, you could write some more elegant code to have those things hidden as well too until the game actually starts. We don't care. It's a small game. No big deal. Okay, so there's our player. This is looking pretty cool. Let's talk about user interface. Okay, we can do that by right-clicking and going to UI. You can create text, images, raw images, buttons, all kinds of things, right? What I want to do is work with raw images because I've created some nice graphics for you to use. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a raw image. Okay, and what you're going to see on the screen here is this big white thing. Now, this is just your user interface, and even though it's big and huge, don't worry about it too much just right now because it's not respective of anything else except that which you can see, and you'll see what I mean in a minute here. So there's a raw image property on it, and that's where we're going to stick our texture, but we don't have the textures yet. So in our assets folder, we're going to right click and create a new folder called textures. Ta-da! And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag all these textures over that we have available to us, that you'll have available to you, and we're just going to drag them over into the project like so. Okay, they finished importing. They look kind of ugly, but here they are. All right, no big deal. So we want to use this logo here. So what I'm going to do is select this raw image again. All right, we're just going to call this logo. And keep in mind, the canvas is what you'll put all of your UI components in, okay? Not just the images. So here's our logo. We're just going to drag it over here to the texture slot. Okay, look how huge and massive it is on this screen. But over here, it's like at the bottom left. Okay, you're like, what? What is going on here? Well, that's just how it works, okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big it is over here on this screen. What matters is how it appears to the user. Okay. So what I'm going to do is figure out what size this actually should be because it's squishing our logo here. So if I just right click over here in Mac, I'm not actually sure, I can't remember on PC how to get the image size. It's probably in the folder manager of some kind. I'll figure that out and let you know. 810 by 477. So 810 by 477. I'm just going to set that here. 810 by 477. And again, this is not perfect or ideal. It's huge and massive, and you're probably thinking, what is going on here? Don't worry about it. We're just doing nice and simple today. Things will get more complex with the UI. So what I'm going to do is just simply, first off, get this centered. It's at the bottom left. So let's click our anchors over here in the logo, okay, and see what's going on. Well, this one is saying it's in the center and in the middle, but it doesn't appear to be. So I'm going to set the position. I think it's just the positioning is offset is the problem. To 0 and 0. Or not. 0, 0. There we go. Perfect. It's in the center just as we want it. Okay. And I'm just going to select it with W. And you can actually, or excuse me, R to scale. And you can actually scale it here as well too. And watch as the values change. The scale is changing on the right hand side. Okay. So let's put it right about there. Press W to move it up. And I'm going to put it right about there. Haunted Zombie Rush. Pretty cool, huh? Cool. So we have our logo. It's looking great. But we also need a play button. So over here in our canvas, all right, I'm going to create a new a raw image. So you notice there's actually a button here. But I don't want to use a button because it wants us to use a button or an image sprite with it. We don't have sprites. We have raw textures. So I'll delete that. So right click on the canvas and we're going to go to UI and we're just going to say raw image again. Okay, we're going to call this one play. And then we'll take this play button and just drop it in there. And of course this one is stretched and ugly as well, which I'm not happy about. So let me just grab the image here and see what size this one should be. 306 by 138. So I'm just going to change this to 306 by 138. And it looks about right. In fact, I'm probably just going to leave it that size. I like it. I am probably going to take our little zombie guy here, though. Let's just click him. Where'd you go, little guy? Where did he go? Oh, there he is on the main menu. Okay, there he is. I just want to see if I can move him down and maybe forward a little bit. There we go. And rotate him slightly. There we go. Much better. I like it. Maybe I'll make him a little bit sideways just so you can see some of his side there. Okay, I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay. So we got a play button. So let's click the play button. And what we want to have happen is when the play button is pressed, in fact, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, you can probably just drag your canvas onto your main menu, like so. I always like to design the canvas and the global positioning because sometimes it has issues if you start inside a sub-object. So I just dragged it here into the main menu. And what I want to have happen is when that play button's clicked, I want this main menu just to deactivate and disappear, which will automatically swap to our other camera. Okay? So let's just click and see, make sure everything's working. Cool. Looks good to me. So, time to write some code. Let's go over to our game manager. So go down here to scripts and let's go to game manager. Are we in it? Okay. Cool. So we probably need a function here called public void enter game. So we haven't entered the game yet, right? And we probably need a variable that represents that as well too. So private bool has the game started yet equals false. Let's create a getter for this as well. Public bool game started. Get, and we're going to return game started. Okay. Cool. So in enter game, we're going to say game started equals true. And we also need a reference to that start menu. So let's go up here and make a serialized field. Okay, private. Just make it a generic game object because we're just going to set it inactive, and all game objects have the active or inactive property. So private game object, and we're going to call this main menu. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do our assertions here. So make sure you type in Unity engine.assertions up here at the top. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our awake function down here, and we are going to assert that is not null. We're going to say main menu. It needs to be dragged in there, absolutely. And then what we'll do is we'll actually say main menu dot set active to false. Okay, so we're going to turn off the main menu, and then we're going to actually start the game, which will be cool. And then let's go over here to our Unity and just make sure we drag the main menu onto the game manager. So game manager is on our main camera. So we can just go ahead and drag the main menu into that game object slot like so. Okay, now in our canvas, okay, this play right here, we can go ahead and now add a button. I was going to say a function, a button for this. So click add component, go to UI, and type in, or enter in the button. And it already has the target graphic on here, which is great. And so what we're going to do is down here in the on click, going to click the plus sign. We're going to click this, and we're going to find our camera because that's where the game script is. So we're going to find the camera object, and then it's automatically going to know which scripts are attached to it and which functions we can call, which is really cool. So ours is going to be in the game object. No, it's not the game object. Did I select the wrong camera? I did. I selected the wrong camera. My bad. We need the main camera. Like so. Now we can go into here and go into the game manager and click enter game. So we've just basically said, hey, this is the object that the script that we want to use is on, and then we pick the script and the function right here from the UI, which I think is pretty dang cool. So this is actually going to hide the menu, and then it should start the game. Now, one thing that we're probably going to want to do is make sure that we can't jump while we're in the main menu. So we're going to go over here to our player, and right here in the update, we're going to say if the game is not over, and if game manager dot instance dot game started. Okay, so only allow jumping if the game's not over and if the game has started, not while we're in the menu. Okay, I like it. No errors, looks like. Let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. So cool, we got this camera working here. We're like, all right, I want to play this game. Boom. Switch cameras, hid those objects over there. As you can see, they're not there. And let's make sure our game's starting. And sure enough, it is starting. Ugh. Sweet. This is pretty awesome. So in this video, you basically worked with user interface using the canvas, okay? And we worked with just a raw image. We did not go into detail of all of these fields and things here. Of course, we did change the scale. You can, of course, rotate it if you want. We did change the size. We did work with raw images. Okay, you can change the alignment of where things are pinned, okay? The top left or top right, whatever you want. Then we went over here and we created another raw graphic, and then we manually added the button script to it. Because the button by default comes with a sprite, and we don't want to use a sprite, we wanted to use a raw image. And we selected the function to be called, and then we created a whole new game state, which is, has the game started yet? And in which case it hadn't. And we of course have this cool main menu object here that includes the zombie, includes the other camera. We removed the audio listener from the camera. Lots of cool stuff here. I like it. And you'll notice that this event system was created automatically for us, but nothing to worry about right now.